Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to take a look at how well the AGL Cell does in the Gods of Destruction event. Now we're running AGL Cell as a friend, 55%, so it's gonna remain 55% Cell. I'm trying to do videos that are at 55% or Rainbow now, just to give people some spectrum, and Cell is at 55%. He is also a Android Cell Saga or Power Absorption category lead of 170%, and he gives 30% extra to characters who are also on the Androids category. We're running him under a 130% lead of my own, Super 17, and for the most part he's going to do pretty well. So Cell starts out with attack and defense of 170%, plus an additional attack and defense of 30% when performing a super attack. He gets an additional attack and defense of 80% with a 18% crit chance and evasion chance when facing 2 or more enemies, and he gets an additional attack and defense of 70% and an additional crit chance and chance of evasion of 17% when facing 3 or more enemies. He has a medium chance of launching an additional super attack when HP is 50% or more. So it's very important to note that Cell is at his weakest at the beginning of the fight. We'll be using items and just assessing how well he does. Overall, attack stats pretty decent, 2 million or so, nothing too crazy, nothing too bad. Realistically speaking, a nice starting point for Cell, and then we'll get a good idea of how he does. Single digits as well after the super attack, which is pretty decent. Remember, he raises attack and raises defense for 1 turn and causes immense damage to the enemy while he fires off that super attack. Now, Cell as a unit is pretty good. The thing about Cell that makes him so enticing to players, I think, which is very similar to the physical Super Saiyan 3 Goku, is the fact that he does a little bit of everything. Cell has evasion, Cell has crit, Cell can fire additional super attacks for the most part, and I think that's always appealing to players. It's always appealing when your unit can do a lot of things and to a decently high level. I mean, Cell can do it at up to 35%, which is decent enough that it's not unreliable, so to say. And so I think that's the big appeal of Cell. You know, he's going to come out the block and he's going to be able to fire additional supers and do crits and have some evasion before you even touch him. Before you even factor in hidden potential system or gear or anything like that, you're going to be able to see a lot from Cell. And I think that's the real enticing thing about him, and I think what makes him look so good. Not to mention, okay, that as a unit, I think his design is pretty good. I mean, if we look here, Cell is going to transform into second form, and he does that from the 3rd turn. So Cell is an immediately transforming unit. He comes right out the gate and gets stronger as we go along, and he's immediately better here. He has 10% extra attack and defense. He's got 10% extra attack and defense after performing a super attack. He also has 17% chance of evasion and crit chance at this point, and yes, there's still some locked away behind fighting 2 enemies. He will have a slightly harder time, but you can see here with an item he's taking 10k before he fires his super attack, which isn't bad. I'm not saying it's necessarily fantastic, but it's really not too bad. And then all of a sudden he's taking single digits. So you can see that change, obviously that additional 40% attack and defense that he does gain when performing a super attack. And for the most part he still looks pretty good. Again, he's still got the ability to now fire that additional super attack, which is quite helpful. And I think the big thing with Cell, like I said, is he starts off technically weakest in this Gods of Destruction event. He's technically at his weakest when you start off the event. He's not able to be as good as he will at a later stage, and he'll get progressively better, and he gets there quite soon. I think the timings of his transformations are really well done in preparation for what kind of events he's facing. Generally, by the 5th turn, by the time you will have Cell in his perfect form, or the earliest you can have Cell in his perfect form, you will be facing around about 1 enemy in ESBR and SBR. And we'll take a look at that when we assess them in those game modes, but it is something that's pretty important. I think is quite noticeable with his transformations, and it's what makes him feel so good, is that everything seems to sync up well from a timing perspective. Very similar to how the idea of Goku losing his evasion, or his evasion dropping down from high to medium chance, generally syncs up quite well with changing into Gohan, and that kind of happens with Cell. Like Cell, by the time you'd really want perfect Cell to come out, he is there. And you look at like this Gods of Destruction event, very similar thing. Like by the time you want Cell or perfect Cell, which is where we are, you know, our items have run out, we really want perfect Cell at this point, he's here. Yeah, exactly when we needed him to be here. And you can see that it's got 175,000 defense, which is great. Super duper solid amount of defense, really high, really strong amount of defense. And remember, in this form he also has, you know, 50% attack and defense when performing a super attack. He will gain 50% attack and defense when facing only one enemy. He has a high chance of launching that additional super attack, and he's got 35% chance of critting and evading. So we've got all the tools now that Cell really gives us, which is really good. And very few of it is conditional now at this point. Obviously that small additional attack and defense when facing only one enemy, which obviously does help, but Cell's looking really solid. 175k defense is a very good like starting point. It's a very good point of damage, and this is at 55%, and a 4 million attack stat is also incredibly solid, very good. And you're gonna start seeing, you know, again, double attacks. Okay, we got evaded, which is okay, but single digits afterwards with no item. The 35% evasion kicked in, and we're going to see how much damage he takes here. Only 112k. Now, it seems like a lot of damage, but this is a Gods of Destruction event. It's a very highly tuned end of game event, and so only taking 112k there at 55% is very impressive. Cell looks really good. Like I said, he just looks super solid. And that crit chance, the additionals, the evasion, all really comes into play, plus the active mode. You know, the rage mode does help. Our ability to rage in, you know, to be able to do a lot of damage in the rage mode, to give ourselves another turn, is very important. And it does help. That little bits of additional damage does really help out. So yeah, it's very important. You know, when you look at Cell, to factor in his rage mode. It's a turn of immunity where you deal only crits. So even though it may not seem like a lot of damage, like the attack stats are not huge damage, they still add up. You know, they still do a good amount of damage, and we're gonna see that. You know, we're gonna see that with Cell now. We're gonna use that active skill, and nice thing is it resets him because it's an active skill as well. It resets him to being in the turn he was before. So you get a whole bunch of benefits, and Cell's just looking really solid. Again, defense is looking great, numbers are looking good. We're going to use the active skill here to get some free damage in, which is always great. And you know, just for the most part, Cell's looking super duper solid. At 55% to do so well in the Gods of Destruction run, and to be able to do significant amounts of damage and tank, albeit one of our most reliable tanks, just shows how strong a unit Cell is. Like if you look here, he can, like, he's going to tank this because obviously it's his rage mode. Then we're going to be able to dish out nice big chunky damage. 2 million, okay, it doesn't seem like a lot, but remember this is a 55% Cell, and he's already removed an entire health bar right here, which is pretty incredible. Plus, if you build him into full additionals, like you should, Cell's going to be able to potentially do even more damage during his rage mode, which is pretty nuts. And then, not only that, but we get a turn with Cell out here. So Cell is going to still be out here, and you can see he's going to tank really well. And we're going to use that moment here to really let Cell kind of tank up and just kind of do his thing. We are going to use Gohan's active skill because it's so rare, so go and enjoy that, and we'll come back.
You're gonna pay for everything you've done.
You know, such a rare active skill, but nowadays it really considering there's a like same typing cell and everything, like I mean the amount of events, or AGL cell, the amount of events you can actually use that active skill in is really increased like a lot. Just talking about like units in general, it's actually increased a lot if you consider how like many different options there are now, I guess, to activate that condition. So yeah, but yeah, Cell doing really well there. Again, tanking really well, evasion coming in, damage is really good, and yeah, Cell just looking really solid at 55%. I'm excited to see what 100% Cell can do. Remember, Cell can also run, if you have a Cell, you can run him under your own lead skill. So you can just run, like Cell can just be much more, like Cell can just be much better. And I think overall, Cell's just very impressive. And yeah, I don't know, I just think I find him to be really good. I think he did a really good job overall. And I'm just impressed with Cell. I think he's a really impressive unit that does a lot and brings a lot to the table, and I think that translates well into being impressive for the player base, and I think that translates well into impressive numbers, but it also actually translates well into being an impressive overall performer. He's a kind of unit that will be good in SPR, be good in ESPR. There are certain events where that slow start is going to count against him, if you can consider it a slow start, and that's generally quite well circumvented by him having dupes and by placing him in the second or third slot, because if he can get off even his multiple super attacks, and then can also get his 50% plus up from performing a super attack, he's actually going to be more than fine defensively, which is obviously very important overall. So yeah, just nice to note how well his kit works and translates. And again, we've, as you can see here, we've managed to finish the Scarred to Destruction event. This is with a 55% Cell. And yes, okay, the Ally Androids are a very good unit. They did a lot of good work here, and I think to deny that would be silly. But just the mere fact that Cell at 55% can do a comparable level of workload to a free-to-play LR, but a Easy Aid Rainbow LR unit that is in a specifically good environment for itself is noticeable, and I think very important. But yeah, that's going to be it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like on it or leave a comment down below. I'll reply back. Let me know how you're finding Cell, if you think he's really good, if you think he's worth the effort or not. I'm always interested to hear people's opinions on the units, how they find them, etc. It's always appealing to me to hear your thoughts and opinions, and I think Cell's a very good unit. So yeah, but that's going to be it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and bye!